You have probably met them, the ones who never seem bothered. Someone speaks in annoyance to them and they don't flinch. They are criticized unfairly and they don't rush to defend themselves. They are ignored, interrupted, disrespected, and somehow they remain calm. No visible anger. Just a steady, almost unsettling composure that makes other people uncomfortable precisely because it refuses to meet their expectations. They are expected to be bothered, to be angry, but they seem relaxed. And almost immediately, a question forms in people's mind, rarely spoken out loud, but always present. What is wrong with them? Because we are used to anger, we expect it, we rely on it as a signal. In modern life, anger has become proof of engagement, proof of self-respect, proof that someone is not weak or passive. To be angry is to show you care. To remain calm is often interpreted as indifference, suppression, or emotional emptiness. So when someone isn't bothered, when insults slide off them, when disrespect fails to provoke a reaction, it feels unnatural, even suspicious. People begin inventing explanations. Maybe they're repressing something. Maybe they're emotionally numb. Maybe they're quietly seething inside and will eventually explode. The idea that someone could genuinely not be disturbed rarely occurs because most people have never experienced that state themselves. But what if they are not unbothered because they feel less, but because they understand more? What if their calm is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of discernment? That possibility challenges one of the most deeply ingrained assumptions in our culture, that emotional reactivity is honest and restraint is artificial. Yet Stoic philosophy has always argued the opposite. Reactivity is automatic, discernment is trained, and most people never question the reflexes they confuse for authenticity. We live in a culture that normalizes irritation to the point that it becomes invisible. Being offended is no longer an event, it is a posture. Someone disagrees with you, anger. Someone inconveniences you, anger. Someone behaves poorly, anger. And because these reactions happen quickly, repeatedly, and with social reinforcement, they start to feel inevitable. We stop asking whether anger is useful. We stop examining whether it improves outcomes, protects values, or clarifies truth. We simply assume it is justified because it is felt, necessary because it is common, honest because it is immediate. But the people who are rarely angry have made a quiet, often uncomfortable discovery. Most things that provoke others do not actually deserve access to their inner world. They have noticed that outrage is frequently disproportionate to the event that triggered it. That irritation often solves nothing. That anger burns energy without producing leverage. This realization does not come from avoidance or emotional withdrawal. It comes from clarity, from watching, repeatedly, how emotional reactions play out, and recognizing the pattern they follow. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but it is usually a response to perceived helplessness. Something is happening that we believe should not be happening, and we feel unable to change it. Anger rushes in to create the sensation of control where none exists. The calm person has learned to interrogate that assumption before the emotion fully forms. They ask often so quickly it feels instinctive, is this actually under my control? And if the answer is no, the emotional grip loosens, not through suppression, but through irrelevance. There is nothing to fight because there is nothing to fix. This is not indifference. It is selectivity. The difference matters. Indifference says nothing matters. Selectivity says some things matter deeply and most things do not. The unbothered person is not emotionally flat. They are emotionally disciplined. They reserve intensity for moments where it can actually be used. Most people, by contrast, hand over their peace with alarming ease. A stranger's tone, a colleague's mood, a careless comment, a driver's impatience. Each becomes a hook, pulling emotion out of them without permission. Their internal state becomes reactive, externally governed, perpetually adjustable based on other people's behavior. The unbothered person notices the hook and refuses to bite, not out of superiority, but out of experience. They have learned that every reaction is a transaction, and most of them are bad deals. They understand something subtle that takes time to grasp. Being angry does not punish the other person. It taxes you, it clouds your thinking, it tightens your body. It lingers after the situation has ended, replaying conversations, rewriting outcomes, stealing attention from the present moment. The person who insulted you moves on. The person who disrespected you forgets. You are the only one still paying the cost. Once this asymmetry becomes obvious, anger loses much of its appeal. This idea sits at the center of Stoic psychology. Epictetus stated it with ruthless clarity. People are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments they form about those events. Someone insults you, that is an event. Feeling anger is a judgment layered on top of it. The judgment says, "This should not have happened, and it threatens me." Remove the judgment, and the anger collapses, not gradually, immediately. Because emotion, in this view, is not something that happens to you. It is something you participate in. This is why some people seem immune. They do not rush to interpret every slight as a personal attack. They do not assume malice where ignorance will suffice. They do not inflate minor inconveniences into moral violations. They keep things in proportion, and proportion, once learned, becomes one of the most powerful emotional regulators available to a human being. A person who is rarely angry is not passive. This is where the misunderstanding becomes most pronounced. Calm is often mistaken for weakness because people confuse volume with force. The unbothered person still notices disrespect. They still see injustice. They still recognize incompetence, selfishness, and cruelty when it appears, but they do not let emotion hijack their response. They respond when response is useful, and they remain silent when silence preserves leverage. That distinction between reacting and responding is what most people never learn to make. Anger promises strength, but it usually delivers loss of control, raised voices, impulsive words, irreversible consequences. The calm person has learned that composure is the real leverage. When you are calm, you see more, you hear more, you think more clearly, you choose better timing, you act with precision instead of force. In conflicts, this often gives you an advantage that anger never could. There is a deeper layer beneath this discipline, and it revolves around identity. People who are easily angered tend to be highly invested in how they are perceived. Their ego is exposed. Their self-image is fragile. Any challenge feels like a threat to who they are. A disagreement becomes an insult. A critique becomes an attack. The unbothered person has loosened that attachment. They no longer need to correct every misunderstanding. They do not need to win every interaction. They do not need to be seen as competent, intelligent, or respectable by everyone they encounter. This does not mean they lack self-respect. It means their self-respect is not outsourced. It is internally anchored. When you know who you are, insults lose their grip. When you are clear about your values, criticism becomes information, not a verdict. When you are grounded, other people's chaos does not infect you. You can observe it without absorbing it. Marcus Aurelius captured this with a sentence that is often misunderstood. The best revenge is not to be like the one who harmed you. This is not moral posturing. It is psychological precision. Anger pulls you into the same emotional pattern as the person provoking it. You mirror their lack of control. Calm keeps you sovereign. It preserves your autonomy in a situation designed to strip it away. There is also a brutally practical reason some people are rarely bothered. They have learned how expensive emotional reactivity is over time. They have watched it erode relationships, distort judgment, damage health. They have noticed how one angry moment can undo years of trust, how one impulsive reaction can close doors that never reopen. They have paid the price enough times to stop pretending it is worth it. So they simplify. They ask fewer internal questions like, how dare they, and more like, does this actually matter? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. And when the answer is yes, they act deliberately rather than explosively. This is not emotional numbness, it is emotional economy. This does not mean nothing affects them. It means fewer things do. And that narrowing of emotional triggers is not accidental, it is trained. They have practiced letting things pass without commentary. Practiced not rehearsing arguments in their head. Practiced leaving situations without emotional residue. At first, it feels unnatural. Later, it feels like relief. Over time, the nervous system learns a new default. Calm becomes familiar. Reactivity starts to feel unnecessary, even crude. From the outside, it looks like emotional invincibility. From the inside, it feels like freedom. What most people never realize is that this freedom did not arrive by accident. It was built slowly, through repeated moments where a different choice was made. The unbothered person was not born immune to irritation. They were once just as reactive, just as quick to bristle, just as convinced that anger was proof of strength. What changed was not their temperament, but their relationship to impulse. They began to notice the gap between stimulus and response, and instead of filling it automatically with emotion, they left it empty. At first, that emptiness felt uncomfortable. Silence always does when you are used to noise, but over time, that space became a refuge. To understand how this transformation happens in real life, consider another fictional figure. Call her Mara. Mara works in a competitive environment where criticism is frequent and often poorly delivered. Early in her career, she reacted the way most people do. A sharp comment from a supervisor would replay in her mind all evening. A dismissive tone in a meeting would sour her mood for days. She told herself this was normal, that it meant she cared. But slowly, she began to notice a pattern. Her anger never improved the situation. It never made the criticism more constructive. It never clarified misunderstandings. It only drained her energy and narrowed her thinking. One evening, after losing sleep over a colleague's offhand remark, she asked herself a question that changed everything. What am I actually protecting by being angry? At first, she had no answer. That absence was instructive. She realized she was reacting out of habit, not purpose. From that point on, she began experimenting. Not with suppression, but with delay. When something irritated her, she waited. She did nothing for a few minutes, then a few hours, sometimes a full day. She discovered that most of her anger evaporated on its own if she did not feed it with mental commentary. When it didn't evaporate, it clarified. The remaining emotion pointed to something actionable, something within her control. That distinction was everything. Her calm was not passive, it was filtered. This filtering process is at the heart of Stoic discipline. The Stoics never taught people to feel nothing. They taught them to feel accurately, to distinguish between impressions that require action and impressions that should be dismissed. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. What he meant was not poetic exaggeration, but psychological observation. The mind magnifies, rehearses, dramatizes. Anger thrives in that environment. Remove the narrative, and the emotion weakens. One of the most practical disciplines the unbothered person adopts is this. They refuse to mentally rehearse conflict. Most anger is not sustained by the original event, it is sustained by replay. The argument you imagine having later, the response you wish you had delivered, the injustice you narrate to yourself again and again, each replay renews the emotional charge. The calm person interrupts this loop early. They notice when the mind starts constructing imaginary dialogues and cut it off, not forcefully, casually, as if declining an invitation that no longer interests them. Another discipline is refusing to personalize randomness. Most people interpret inconvenience as intention. A late reply becomes disrespect. A neutral expression becomes hostility. A short answer becomes rejection. The unbothered person assumes less. They default to explanations that do not center themselves. Ignorance over malice, distraction over disdain. This is not naivete. It is statistical realism. Most people are not thinking about you nearly as much as you imagine. Internalizing this truth removes an enormous amount of unnecessary emotional friction. There is also the discipline of choosing when to respond at all. Calm people do not equate response with self-respect. They understand that some provocations exist solely to extract energy. Responding gives them what they want. Silence, in those cases, is not avoidance, it is refusal. This is especially visible in how unbothered people handle disrespect. They do not rush to correct tone. They do not chase apologies. They make note, adjust boundaries, and move on. When action is required, it is precise and minimal. When it is not, nothing happens. This restraint is often mistaken for weakness by those who rely on escalation as their primary tool. Over time, these small practices compound. The nervous system recalibrates. Situations that once triggered immediate irritation now barely register, not because the person has become numb, but because their threshold for significance has changed. They have trained themselves to ask a single grounding question before emotion takes over. Will this matter tomorrow? Next week? Next year? In most cases, the honest answer dissolves the reaction on the spot. This is also why calm people tend to be harder to manipulate. Manipulation relies on emotional leverage. Guilt, fear, anger, urgency. Remove emotional volatility and the leverage disappears. The unbothered person does not rush decisions under pressure. They do not react to raised voices. They do not confuse intensity with importance. This steadiness gives them an advantage that others often misinterpret as passivity, right up until it becomes clear who actually controls themselves in the situation. There is an ethical dimension here as well. Anger often feels righteous, but righteousness is a poor substitute for wisdom. Being correct does not require being furious. Seeing injustice does not obligate you to internalize rage. The Stoic response to wrongdoing is not emotional collapse, but deliberate action. Calm allows for strategy. Anger demands release. One builds outcomes, the other consumes energy. The people who are rarely angry have learned this difference not from philosophy alone, but from watching what actually works. From the outside, this way of being can feel alien. In a world addicted to reaction, calm looks like absence. In a culture that rewards outrage, composure looks suspicious. But to those who live it, the difference is stark. Life becomes quieter, decisions become cleaner, relationships become simpler. There is less residue left behind after interactions. Less need to decompress, less internal negotiation. The mind spends more time in the present and less time arguing with ghosts. This is why such people often unsettle others. Their calm highlights how reactive everyone else has become. When someone refuses to escalate, refuses to mirror irritation, refuses to play the emotional game, it exposes how optional most anger really is. That exposure can feel threatening. It suggests that the suffering others experience daily might not be inevitable, and nothing disturbs a person more than realizing their pain may be partly self-inflicted. But the unbothered person does not evangelize their calm. They do not preach restraint. They simply live it. They allow others to react without joining them. They allow criticism to exist without internalizing it. They allow chaos to pass through their environment without letting it lodge inside them. This quiet consistency is what gives their presence weight. When they do speak, people listen because it is rare. When they do act, it matters because it is measured. Here is the quiet truth beneath it all. The people who are rarely angry are not detached from life. They are deeply engaged with reality, not with drama. They see things as they are, not as their ego insists they should be. They save their energy for what deserves it. They invest attention where it produces clarity instead of noise. They act when action changes outcomes and let the rest dissolve without ceremony. They have learned that peace is not found by controlling others. It is found by mastering their own responses. And mastery, in the Stoic sense, is not suppression. It is alignment. Alignment between judgment and reality, between values and behavior, between stimulus and choice. Once you see this clearly, their calm stops looking strange. It starts looking intentional, disciplined, earned. Not the calm of avoidance, but the calm of someone who knows exactly what is and is not worth their inner life. If this perspective has shifted how you think about anger, even slightly, pause with that. Let the idea settle. Awareness deepens when it is allowed to linger instead of being immediately replaced by the next stimulus. And if you know someone who is constantly reactive, constantly irritated, constantly drained by other people's behavior, consider sharing this with them, not as advice, but as perspective. Sometimes relief begins not with instruction, but with recognition. And when you are ready to move beyond understanding, to actually change how you respond, how you protect your inner state, how you reclaim your attention from unnecessary battles, there is always a next step. Not one that adds more effort, but one that removes friction. Real change does not start with force. It starts with control. Control of judgment, control of response, control of where you place your emotional weight.